Friends, as a part of this training program, now we are conducting a lecture on Indian culture and modern science. And we have for this lecture with us Professor S.C. Goswamiji, a widely acclaimed author, researcher, thinker and philosopher, who has contributed immensely to the cause of education and culture at national and international level throughout his life. Professor Goswami did MSc in chemistry and PhD from University of Delhi, besides diplomas in German, Spanish and Bengali. He taught in University of Delhi and conducted in-depth research in the field of soil science and philosophy throughout his career. Professor Goswami has written extensively and has been regularly contributing articles, research papers and reviews in these fields. He has represented the country in several international conferences all over the world and contributed actively by presenting research papers, articles and his thought-provoking addresses which were liked and appreciated by one and all. Professor Goswami is associated with CCRT for more than a decade now and continuously enlightening our teachers and teacher educators about this symbiotic relationship between culture and science.
Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This is in fact a peace invocation from the Upanishads. Both the teacher and the taught, they pray to the Almighty, let Brahman protect us both, let him nourish us both, may we both acquire energy as a result of this study, may we both become illumined by this study and let there be no misunderstanding between us. What do you think can be a source of misunderstanding between the teacher and the taught? Sometimes it may happen that the teacher is explaining something and the students do not understand, but they do not ask question. Then misunderstanding starts. So, if you have any doubts, if you have any questions, please stop your teacher, ask the question, because asking question has been the basis of our culture. Athato Brahma Jigyasa, this eagerness to know, to question, that is the main point, that should be the main point of a dialogue between the teacher and the taught. So, before we take up the subject of Indian culture in the light of modern scientific discoveries, let me make two terms very clear at the outset. Number one, when we say about Indian culture, so what is this term Indian? By the way, this word Indian does not exist in India. In none of the scriptures of the Indians, in none of our ancient literature, you will find this word Indian or Hindu, for example. How did we get these words Hindu and Indian? You just look at this map. This is our country known as India. And you see this blue line, this is river Sindhu. Now, these people coming from Persia, they invaded us, they wanted to loot us, because we were very peace loving, we were very prosperous. So, we were a soft target. Now, in Persian, when they were confronted by this river Sindhu, in Persian they pronounced Sindhu as Hindu. When the Greeks invaded us, they were also confronted by the same river Sindhu and they pronounced this as Indos, I-N-D-O-S. The Britishers converted this into Indus and we became Indians. So, we are Indians and Hindus as a result of mispronunciation of the name of the river Sindhu. So, Hindu is not a religious term in the sense Islam or Christianity is a religious term, for the simple reason that you cannot think of Islam without Prophet Muhammad or the Holy Quran. You cannot imagine Christianity without Jesus or without the Bible. But can you say the same thing about Hinduism? No. There is no single prophet, there is no single book. I worship Ram, my wife worships Krishna, and my daughter doesn't believe in God, and we are all Hindus living happily in the same family. So, let us be very clear about this, that we are Hindus or Indians as a result of mispronunciation of the name of the river Sindhu by foreign invaders. So, when we talk of Indian culture, we have to talk of the total accumulation of material objects, ideas, symbols, beliefs, sentiments, values and social forms, which the people living on the eastern side of the river Sindhu, they followed. They built palaces, they built temples, they had their own ideas about the origin of the universe, they had their own philosophical ideas about what man is, how the universe came into existence, what happens to a man when he dies, and all those festivals and all these things. So, an accumulated wisdom that a generation passes to the next generation in any given society is known as culture, and in the case of India we call it Indian culture. Now, the culture of any country can be studied from two viewpoints: material, that is physical, and mental, that is metaphysical. So far as the material part is concerned, it is very difficult to pinpoint the historical evidence of how old the Indian culture is. They say Rig Veda is 5000 year old, the Vedic culture is 3000 year old, and scholars and researchers, they give a number of viewpoints regarding the historicity of our culture or of our way of life. Recently, in the central part of India, there is a city known as Bhopal, and about 70 kilometers from that city of Bhopal, there is a place known as Bhimbetka. I have visited that place, and there we find rock paintings, where people are shown playing all the 4 types of musical instruments that scientists or human beings have developed so far. Till date, we have not discovered the 5th type of musical instruments, and those people, I can show you the photographs, they are shown as playing upon all those 4 types of musical instruments. You just see this picture. This is a string instrument. This is a percussion instrument. This is a wind instrument, and these are solid instruments. These are the 4 types of musical instruments that we human beings have discovered so far. And these people, they not only discovered all the 4 types of musical instruments, but they even knew how to play on them. An Australian team of scientists came and they dated them. Fluorine dating and carbon dating, they are the usual methods of dating these things, the rocks and paintings, and they were dated 12,000 year old. Now, this theory that the Rig Vedic period was 5000 year old stands demolished. By the way, this theory of Aryan invasion also is a humbug. It is a concocted story. Swami Vivekananda and Sri Aurobindo, they were against this theory of Aryan invasion for the simple reason, we have no evidence whatsoever, even in a folk song or a folklore or a story, telling us or talking about any invasion from outside. So, we were Aryans, and the name of this land was Aryavart, that is inhabited by gentlemen. Arya means gentleman, Aryaputra means the son of a gentleman. So, the term Aryan is not a racial term, it is a term which addresses you, as you know, very often we say ladies and gentlemen. And then in olden days in ancient India, we were addressing each other as Arya or Aryaputra. So, it is definitely not a racial term. So, our culture is, how old is our culture? It is very difficult to decide. So, let us not discuss how old the Indian culture is. Now, we know it is more than 12,000 year old, and this theory of 5,000 year old Rig Vedic culture or Indus Valley civilization, which is termed by certain scholars as pre-Vedic culture, is absolutely not acceptable in the light of these recent discoveries. Now, what was the way of life? What were these people, the Rig Vedic people or the Vedic people, what sort of a life, so far as the material life is concerned, or the metaphysical life or the mental life of these people was? Materially, they were well advanced. They had established agriculture, they had well advanced village craft, and they were very settled people, and they had lot of time and leisure to think about how this world came into existence, the questions that I rose about which I mentioned in the very beginning. They had enough time and leisure to think how this world came into existence. When there was neither existence nor existence, what existed? These are the questions which are posed in the Nasadi Sukt of the Rig Veda. When there was neither Sat nor Asat, what existed? And the Rishi was very honest. He said, I do not know. Even that Adhyaksha, who is sitting in Param Vyom, whether even he knows or not, I have my own doubts. By the way, we come across two terms, Vyom and Param Vyom, in Nasadi Sukt. And now we know from latest scientific discoveries that we have two types of spaces, the physical space, the three-dimensional physical space in which you and I are sitting and talking, and there is an abstract mathematical space in which the electron or the matter exists in a wave form. We shall talk about this wave particle duality later, how de Broglie came upon this idea of matter being both particulate and wavy. So, when these scientists of old ancient India, when they tried to find out the unity behind this immense diversity that they observed around them, wherever they were, whether they were sitting in their cottage in a jungle, or whether they were on the top of a mountain or by the side of a river, or even now when we are sitting in the studio or in the room, our bedroom or homes, if we look around, what do we find? We find, supposing in this room I am sitting, what do I observe? I observe the walls, the fan, this table, my shirt, you and I, maybe some cat or dog. If I look outside the window, I may see some trees and plants. So, all these things taken together, they are of three kinds. Either they belong to the mineral kingdom, or the vegetable kingdom, or the animal kingdom. Now, you cannot think of anything which is outside of these three kingdoms. And by the way, I may tell you that our planet Earth is the only heavenly body which has all the three on it. The rest of the cosmos is all mineral kingdom. We have not found a human being anywhere else. We have scanned 100 billion galaxies, and we have not found a human being anywhere else. You might have heard of Carl Sagan, who died recently. He wrote a book, and there was a TV serial by the name of the book, The Cosmos. In that book, Sagan says, and I quote, if a human differs let him live. In 100 billion galaxies, you will not find another. Unquote. And see how foolish we are. We fight with each other on the basis of religion or caste or creed or national geographical boundaries or petty things, rape, murder, what sort of things, all sorts of nonsense we commit, jolly well knowing that we are such a rare species which is found only on this planet Earth. So, then the Vedic people, they were also wondering, we have so much of variety, so many species, millions and millions of species in the vegetable kingdom, animal kingdom and mineral kingdom. Is there something which is common to all these? And then they declared, they observed, they made lot of research in their own laboratory of body, mind and intellect. How they did it, that we will talk later. But their conclusion was marvelous. The Rig Vedic Rishi said, Ekam sadvipra baudha vadanti. It is one which appears as many. The Upanishad said, Ishopanishad, Ishavasyam idam sarvam. All this that you see around you is enveloped by Isha, that is the divine. It is not a creation, it is a manifestation of the divine. And then we have in the Chandogya Upanishad 8 or 9 times this statement coming, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu, you are that ultimate truth. It is not a patent of the Rig Vedic sages. Of course, we have inherited this culture, it is still vibrant culture, it is still relevant in the contemporary times, as you must have realized by now. But then there was Jesus Christ, who said in the Gospel of St. John, I and the Father in heaven are one. There was a Muslim saint, a Sufi saint, who said, An al-Haq, I am the ultimate truth. So, the experience of human beings, whether they were Indians in the Rig Vedic age or even today, we have the examples of Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, Mahatma Gandhi, who realized that unity behind this immense diversity. But then, if you quote these scriptures to our younger generation, who are trained in modern science, they will raise a doubt. A doubt definitely will come to them, Dad or Mom, is there any scientific evidence to show that all this that appears around us is a manifestation of that one which appears as many? Yes, here comes the scientific evidence, and to my mind the first scientific evidence came as late as 10th May 1901 at Royal Institution, London. It was a Friday evening. A scientist, incidentally he was an Indian. His name was Professor Jagdish Chandra Bose.